One refugee law clinic says it's disappointed that Parliament has not held the Department of Home Affairs to account for failing to comply with a Supreme Court of Appeal ruling that ordered a Cape Town Refugee Reception office be reopened. In 2012, the department opted to close the Cape Town office in an aim to centralise and control the process, leaving many incoming asylum seekers undocumented. eNCA's Aarti Narsee has more.
There have been various stakeholders that have been involved in trying to get the Department of Home Affairs to reopen the Refugee Reception Centre here in Cape Town to ensure that incoming asylum seekers can obviously get their paperwork and their documentation. A number of stakeholders have been lobbying for this and have been in contact with the department. One of those bodies is the UCT Refugee Law Clinic, and I'm joined by Popo Mfubu, who is a lawyer here. And can you just start off by telling us on what's some of the engagements that you've had with the department regarding this issue, and obviously pushing them to make sure that the centre is reopened?
Okay, so as soon as we got confirmation from the Constitutional Court that their appeal was dismissed, we have then been writing to the Department of Home Affairs to find out when are they going to open the office, because as part of the order in the Constitutional Court, they were meant to file affidavits every month indicating their progress towards opening the office. They haven't done that, so we were left in limbo. We didn't know. They have not responded to any of those. Also, what we did is that we had hoped that on the 20th of March, because the Department of Home Affairs was going to be in Parliament, they were going to be before the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. We wrote to Parliament and asked them, and we said, the office hasn't opened. We haven't gotten any indication, are they going to open? But unfortunately, Parliament didn't ask them any of those questions. It's only last month where we engaged with the Department of Home Affairs, where someone from stakeholder management came to us, and they confirmed that the Cape Town office is not going to open by the 31st of March, as per the court order from the Constitutional Court. So they said to us it's only going to open when the Department of Public Works gives them a building, which is really unfortunate, because it really just, it flies in the face of the rule of law. The Constitutional Court judgment and Supreme Court of Appeal judgments must be fulfilled. The department cannot simply just say the office will open when it opens. They must abide by the court order.
And just talking about Parliament, I mean, Parliament is the oversight body that obviously must hold government to account. Do you think that more needs to be done on their side to ensure that there is that accountability with the department, that they abide by that court order that obviously is said that it's, that their actions were irrational and unlawful?
Yeah, Parliament plays a very important oversight role. It was very disappointing for us that they didn't ask any questions in relation to that office, because in light of the fact that the Port Elizabeth office went through a similar legal challenge, and there also the Supreme Court of Appeal said the Port Elizabeth office must open, and that was in 2015. The office still has not opened. And in the order that the Supreme Court of Appeal has in relation to the Cape Town Refugee Office, the court specifically lamented on this issue and said it is very, very dangerous when the state itself does not comply with court orders. It sends a very negative message to the rest of society. It says you can simply just not comply with court orders. So it's very unfortunate that Parliament did not play its oversight role.
And I mean, just in terms of the clinic, you see a lot of people coming in here looking for answers almost because they've been turned away or they're unable to get documentation. Just take us through some examples of cases that you've dealt with and the impact that it's had on the ground for people in the vulnerable community.
Part of the thinking or that formed the decision to close the Cape Town Refugee Office by Home Affairs was that they don't need this office here. But time and time again, every single week in this office, we see about, in total for the year, 5,000 clients. So we see of those 5,000 clients, we've been seeing almost at least 10 new applicants a day that are arriving in Cape Town that want to apply for asylum but are unable to apply for asylum. We had thought that because there was a court order, there'd be certainty that the office was going to open. It's difficult for us to advise our clients, do they stay in Cape Town and wait for it to eventually open one day, or do they go to one of the other refugee reception offices, which is very problematic for people who are vulnerable. Imagine a family of 5 that must travel every 3 to 6 months to Durban or to Messina or to Johannesburg to renew their permits. It's very difficult. Many of them are forced because of financial reasons to stay in Cape Town undocumented. And if they're undocumented, they can't operate a bank account, they can't lawfully be employed. It's difficult for them to access healthcare or to send their kids to school. So they live in this limbo if the Cape Town office is not open. It's integral that office opens immediately because there's many people living in Cape Town who currently require the services of that office.
Okay. And lastly, I mean, do you find of instances where refugees or asylum seekers are detained by the police because of being undocumented or just being more vulnerable to human rights violations because of their status?
Yes, of course, we've come across a number of clients like that who have been detained because they don't have permits. Because an immigration official or policeman, in terms of Section 41 of the Immigration Act, can stop them and ask them for identification. If they don't have it, then they're detained. Even though there are judgments by the Supreme Court of Appeal that says a person can exercise their right to apply for asylum at any stage. So even if they are in detention, they can say, I'm here to apply for asylum, and they must be released. But often they are not. We often have to intervene, go and consult with clients at police stations in order to get them out when they finally appear in court. So there is a clear detriment that is taking place for clients who aren't able to access the system and are, and as a result, detained because of that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Popo. We'll leave it for there now. And that was Popo from the UCT Refugee Law Clinic. And a lot of NGOs have been pushing for the Department of Home Affairs to reopen the centre to its full capacity. And we'll be tracking that story for you, as well as the department's progress and its movements.